So let's build a Spinnaker pipeline in a bank. Welcome to the new digital international bank. So basically, we're going to walk through building and implementing Spinnaker in a fictitious bank called the new digital international bank, where we've been asked to come and build a Spinnaker pipeline. So again, Spinnaker pipeline, new bank, let's go. But first of all, I'm AbdulBasit Kabir. I'm a software engineer, DevOps at InterSwitch. InterSwitch is a global financial technology company based in Africa. Provide financial solutions to multiple organizations and consumers. Enough of the intro, let's get to it. So what's in a pipeline? Well, if you're in Spinnaker Summit, then we know that a pipeline would most likely contain the build stage, the package stage, we test our code, then we deploy. So pretty basic, right? So everybody thinks. For this bank, the first iteration of the pipeline will have a build, of course, where you build your code, unit tests for running the unit test, a quality check stage for running for scanning the code. Is it up to standard code quality, code smell? Depending on what kind of programming language you have, there are several of them that you can run. Then security scans. Basically, is this code, does it look like it's going to have some security vulnerability? Is it using a third-party library that has security vulnerabilities in it? Is it using out of date libraries and the likes? The next is we build an image out of the code. Build the image and run scans on the image. So this is the package part. Our image has to be clear in terms of no security vulnerabilities. It's hardened. There are so many scans you can do here, but don't forget security is top of mind since we're in the bank. We deploy it to a Kubernetes environment. This will be our test environment or our UAT environment, however you want to call it. Deploying to the test and UAT environment means that we can now run regression tests. We can now run security tests again on the deployed application. So what are the what kind of security vulnerabilities should we expect when the application is running? Is it exposing what it shouldn't expose? Can you reach an endpoint without proper authentication authorization? Basically, the likes. We have so many security tests to run. Then we run our automation tests. This is where the QA engineers can automate a test and run it against the deployed the deployed application. And we give a manual judgment stage where the QA engineer can now, so the whole pipeline pauses for the QA engineer to either decide to proceed or to fail the QA. Because some quality checks can't be automated. So we put the manual stage for the QA engineer to run other tests. But this is just the first iteration of the pipeline. The next is, okay, so how is our environment architected? Spinnaker will be deployed primarily on the Kubernetes environment, running on the test environment. So this is the first stage. This is the first iteration. We've deployed it for all the engineers to try, for all the different engineering teams to try, and they've been using it to deploy multiple applications to the same Kubernetes environment. But because compliance is at the top of our mind, there are a few compliance checklists that we have. The first is PCI DSS. PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. This is a data security standard developed by the Payment Card Industry Security Council. Basically, it's one of the primary regulation and primary compliance that we need to have, primary compliance that we need to make sure that we are abiding by as a bank, as a financial, as a player in the financial industry. Also, there should be authorization and authentication. So we need to build that in to the bank's Spinnaker pipeline, Spinnaker deployment, Spinnaker environments. Also, audit trail is something that's very important for a bank. Making sure that our passwords are not clear. There's nothing clear in config files in terms of passwords. All passwords are masked or encrypted. Log collection and aggregation, tracking and monitoring, and also tracking our changes. So part of a bank's infosec policy would be all changes made to the production environments need to be tracked. Again, we're creating a Spinnaker pipeline to deploy all the way to the production environment. So updates the Spinnaker pipeline. Because compliance is top of mind, we need to update our pipeline so that we introduce more checks or more stages that help with compliance. So this stage would be a compliance check on the code itself. That's the code compliance stage. An artifact scan stage. So basically, after the application has been deployed to the Kubernetes environment, of course, we know that deploying to Kubernetes environment will most likely mean an ingress, a service, config map, secret, the deployment itself, and the pod, and the replica set, and the stateful sets. All these artifacts that we've deployed to the Kubernetes environment, scanning them and ensuring that in the environment variables, in the secrets, in the config maps, nothing is in clear text. Even when we add our TLS certificates, that nothing is in clear text. Then a last compliance stage after the QA has passed. What does this do? Basically, checking the application that has been running now for some time, that has gone through regression test and automated test, and even some maybe manual click and point test. Did it output any secret in clear text? Did it log any card holder details in clear? Did it not mask anything? Did it store anything unencrypted on the password? And the likes. So these are the kind of checks that we run at the compliance run stage. And doing all this helps us achieve a few things. In terms of PCI DSS, we achieve the goal of ensuring that cardholder data is protected. Nothing is in clear, nothing is unmasked, and nothing is unencrypted. So everything has to be encrypted and masked. Also, our passwords are not in clear, especially when we run the artifact scan stage. It ensures that the config map, the environment variable, and even the secrets, they don't have passwords in clear text. On our Kubernetes environment, nothing is in clear text. So yes, time to go for prod. Time to go to prod. Yes, but not really. After going back to the management and telling them, okay, these are what we've achieved. We now have this pipeline. Let's go to prod. They said, good. But what? We need to add a little extra. To score some extra points, try to implement staging, canary analysis, integrate with our existing ticketing system, and ensure or replicate our change process. Well, this is not a big task, but it's some work. So how are we going to do this? First of all, remember our architecture where our Spinnaker deployment is done. Our Spinnaker is deployed to the test Kubernetes environment. That has to change. First thing we do is we remove Spinnaker entirely from that Kubernetes cluster. Don't worry, we're putting Spinnaker back, but not on that cluster. We now have a management VLAN, an entire network environment that's isolated from the test network environment, where we use it for our configuration tools and other management tools. That's where we're going to have the Kubernetes cluster that will now run the that will now run our Spinnaker deployments. This is the same. It's in this same management VLAN that we have some other CI tools. So the architecture is going to be like this. CI tools run both on the test VLAN and on the management VLAN. On the test VLAN, Kubernetes can easily communicate from the management VLAN to the test VLAN to deploy on UAT environment and run some CI tools and CI builds and the likes. Maybe Jenkins, maybe something else. And from the management VLAN again, Spinnaker can easily communicate with the prod VLAN, where it deploys prod applications using the prod pipeline. So separating into these three separate VLANs helps us achieve two other goals on the PCI DSS checklist. These are deploy and maintain a secure network and systems. Again, because the environments are now segregated, are now independent, we've increased the security of our network. Also, implement strong access control measures. Since most of our engineers would be running on the test VLAN, having everything in separated VLANs makes it easier for us to ensure access control. You don't have access to prod VLAN except and only if you need it. These are two goals of the PCI DSS checklist that we've achieved by having three different VLANs. So now the pipeline for prod, what would it look like? So before we actually go to the prod pipeline, let's modify our test pipeline. Introduce another manual stage, proceed to prod. This stage basically gives the engineering team the ability to say, okay, so the deployment that has been done all the way to the test environment, are we ready? Are we actually ready to deploy it to prod? Yes. If they are, the manual stage there is judged as accepted and it can proceed to prod. But before then, remember we had the requirement of ensuring that we are compliant, or we replicate the existing ticketing system and also the existing change process. So part of the existing change process is that a ticket has to be raised, and so at this point we raise the ticket. Basically, by using the manual judgment stage and raising a ticket, we've done two things. We can now check our ticketing system, ensuring we use the ticketing system. Yes. We can now check also implement the existing change process without changing too much. Okay. So again, let's go back to our compliance checklist and see what we've achieved. In terms of PCI DSS, we've achieved three goals. As for user authentication authorization, we'll get to that. Audit trail, get to that. Mask and encrypted passwords, yes. The remaining, we'll get to them. For the extras, we've also achieved two: the ticketing system and the change process, replicating the existing change process. So our architecture. On the management VLAN, we remember that our CI tools were there, the other config tools were there, and the Kubernetes cluster is there. So now let's integrate our Spinnaker to our auth server. So as the bank, we already have an authentication server and that we use for user login. So by integrating it, we can now do authentication and authorization. That enables us to do some things on the prod pipeline. So this is our prod pipeline. By adding authentication and authorization, we can now add manual stages. So the manual stages are the ones in triangles. So deploy to staging, manual judgments, that one of the change managers has to go and manually approve and say, yes, let's deploy to staging. Deploying to staging means that we make a canary deployment, and we also do our canary analysis. So there's a nice integration for canary analysis natively in Spinnaker, so no need to add extra plugins. Proceed to prod. Again, because of our existing change management process, we have to now put a manual judgment stage to proceed to prod. When that is accepted, it updates the CR. Again, existing replicate what is in the existing change management process. The CTO's approval. According to the existing change management process, CTO has to approve, the Chief Technology Officer has to approve anything that goes to production. And what does that entail? Basically, he comes on the Spinnaker dashboard and now makes the manual judgment of whether to proceed or not. And if he proceeds, the CR is updated, the change request ticket is updated, again, part of the existing manual, existing change process. Once that is updated, then now we're good to go. What happens next? We deploy to prod, we discard staging, and we mark the whole process as done. So yes, now we can celebrate. We have a running Spinnaker deployment. However, although it's using our change tracking system, it has staging integrated, it has canary analysis integrated, it's already replicating the existing change management process. We still have not achieved everything on our compliance checklist. So let's continue. The first thing we do is integrate ELK. ELK will be used for log collection and log aggregation. So integrate ELK to Spinnaker so that we can collect all the logs that Spinnaker outputs and have a way of visualizing it. Also, integrate Spinnaker into our monitoring system. Our existing monitoring system includes the custom monitoring system and even the Prometheus Grafana monitoring system. By adding Spinnaker to the monitoring system, we can now say we've achieved the following things with this change in architecture. So authentication authorization is there, log collection and log aggregation, tracking and monitoring with our monitoring system, and audit trails, again, with the monitoring and the log collection and the authentication system. So how are we looking in terms of PCI DSS? All these architectural changes have helped us achieve 3 more objectives of PCI DSS. There's the implementation of strong access control, regular monitoring, because we've integrated into monitoring system, and maintaining an InfoSec security policy. Basically, because of what is within the InfoSec policy, and ensuring that all the other previous checklists have been achieved, then we can say that the InfoSec security policy is compliant with the InfoSec security policy. Thereby, we are maintaining the InfoSec security policy. So can we mark everything as complete? Can we say we've finished in creating a pipeline for the bank? Let's look at the requirements the new Digital International Bank gave us. In terms of PCI DSS, yes, we've built and maintained a secure network because of the network partitions based on VLANs. Are we protecting cardholder details? Yes, definitely. We've checked that on the code. We've checked that when it's deployed. We've also ensured that we have encryption all around. Implementing strong access control measures, definitely. Authentication, authorization, when only those that need access to a particular network only those that need access to a particular network have access. Regular monitoring and network tests. Again, we've implemented monitoring into our environment, our architecture, and we also maintain a security policy. The only thing that I'll say might be outstanding is the vulnerability management program. And that's because vulnerability management has little to do with our Spinnaker pipeline. However, because we are now checking, because we are doing the code scans and ensuring that our code is not even vulnerable in the first place, there are no security vulnerabilities in the code or any dependency or any library that the code uses, we can even mark this as done. So what about the other compliance checklists given by the new digital international bank? User authentication is there, authentication authorization, audit trails, password and mask, log collection, tracking and monitoring, and change tracking. All those are there. The extras, of course, we've done staging. We've done the canary analysis. We've integrated into the existing ticketing system. And we've designed a pipeline that fits the existing change process. So I think with our final pipeline looking like this for UAT, with all these different stages, and our prod pipeline looking like this for deploying to production environments with the manual stages and the manual checks and updating the CR, I can say that for our pipeline, we've achieved the we've achieved the goal of being compliant and fitting into the existing process. With our architecture looking like this, having different subnets and only on a need to know basis, only for those that need access get access. Management VLAN has the Spinnaker pipeline, has monitoring, authentication, authorization, logging. It has access to deploy to production VLAN and also has access for test VLAN. We have our system that's compliant and also fits into the bank's requirements. With all this, what we've done is to create a guide, because every team will definitely have its own requirements, to create a guide where each team can build and maintain their deployments according to their needs using our centrally provisioned system, and ensuring that whatever pipeline they come up with, it's in line with best practice and also compliance. Thank you very much. I've been AbdulBasit Kabir, and you can always follow me on Twitter at AbulK, and you can find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/AbdulBasitKay. Thank you very much.